Okay, so good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Start of Grind SG virtual fireside chat. As I keep on getting more people in who are joining us, I'll just start by telling a little bit to those of you who are not familiar with what we do about Startup Grind. Well, Startup Grind is the biggest community for entrepreneurs in the world. We're talking about over 3 million participants in our event during the 10 years of our existence. We're located in more than 125 countries and more than 600 chapters. Our chapter is one of the chapters in Israel. We are from Rishon, Lezion. It's a city in what we call the Plain, a little bit south from Tel Aviv. I'll tell you a little bit about the values of Startup Grind. Well, we have three. They are very important to us. We cherish them. The first one is make friends, not contacts. The second one is help others before you help yourself. And the third one is what we call give first before you take. What we're trying to do always is to educate, inspire, and connect all entrepreneurs in the world. And we do that by doing such events on a monthly basis. And this time we have a great entrepreneur with us. Lior Sion is a serial entrepreneur, and Lior, we're going to start right away by asking you my favorite question about your background. Go back to your childhood, and when did you actually knew that you're going to be an entrepreneur, and why?
So it's actually for me. So first, thank you for having me. It's important. I'm starting to see familiar faces here that I haven't seen for a long time. Hello, Amir. No, but for me it was actually me personally. It's actually a reverse procedure. I actually was almost born an entrepreneur. From stories that I can't even remember when I was 3, 4, 5. Started with innovating with my brothers and selling stuff to them. And at 5 o'clock, when I was 5, I actually went to the grocery store in the neighborhood and suggested that I would help, which obviously the owner liked a lot and told me to go and sort the arrangements of groceries. And I said no. When I said work, I meant at the cash register, because this is where the things are happening. So I was very clear on what I want to do. Long story short, actually, when I joined the army, my parents are, you can say entrepreneurs. They have their own office. It's not high tech, but they have their own office. So actually, when I joined the army, I decided I will never be an entrepreneur. I decided it's not for me. The cost is too high. The long hours, the never-ending stress. I actually left the army. I was in Mamram, and I actually left the army, and it was very, very clear to me I would never be an entrepreneur. And I started my journey as an employee in company, where I met Amir. But also, what happened in parallel was I was getting married, and I was really bummed. I was really bummed by the way that getting married worked in Israel, how people basically could take advantage of newlyweds in terms of cost and quality and so on and so forth. Talking about 2004-ish, and I decided that there has to be a way around it, and talked about reviews and online reviews and trust and a lot of those things, and actually started my first real idea, and really liked it, and found myself doing it and loving it, and the passion came back. So it's weird, but that's my journey.
And tell us a little bit about your other ventures that you were part of, if you don't mind.
Everything that I've done as a kid, or
not as a kid, but after when you started to enter the entrepreneurial world, of course you went and GetTaxi, and of course the platform that Shachar was talking about earlier, the Meat for Me. I don't know any Israeli
yes,
who don't know Meat for Me.
Yeah. So I started actually my first one. My first one was actually a BBS. I don't know how many of you know what the BBS is, but there was a time that there was no internet, at least no high speed, always connected internet. And in that world, there was something called BBSs, which was bulletin board system. And long story short, it was a tedious effort to connect. I had the biggest BBS in the southern Israel. I was living in Ashkelon at the time. I was actually responsible for something called FidoNet in south of Israel. FidoNet was an amazing technology. You can send an email to somebody in Canada, and it would only take 2 days to arrive. 2 days, it was amazing. Unlike airmail, that was the second fastest thing and took a week. So FidoNet was that great. Around 95, 96, the whole BBS scene basically disappeared with the existence of high-speed, always connected cable modems. So actually I was there and I was selling, I was selling technology for BBSs. That's roughly when I was in high school. So I left the army. Like I said, I was working in a company, but I started meet for meet, which in Hebrew, if people don't speak Hebrew, it's like mitchatnim leman mitchatnim. It's people who are getting married for other people who are getting married. It was a review site for people who get married. Basically, at the same time, we started the same time as Yale. They got a little bit ahead of us, not too much. They controlled the American market. We controlled the Israeli market. But it was very interesting around the same thing. And the thing there is not reviews, by the way. People sometimes mistake. The thing about the review site is about trust. It's all about trust. How much you trust the site. And the thing that happened there was that that basically changed my life was that the site existed for about 6 months and drew 100 users a day, very stable. My memory is not that good, but 10 a.m. and I thought, why is it not changing? Why people who are coming every day live? And I started looking at things, and basically this is how my product experience started. I didn't know what products was at the time, but what I was doing is I was looking at the homepage and understanding how things can be different and more attractive. And the next thing I knew, it was 7 p.m. at night, and I sat at the coffee house the whole day, just moving things around, UX, what you call UX. I didn't know that at the time. And within a day, our users jumped to 1,000, 10 times. And by the end of the month, we were around 30,000. And then I realized, first meet for meet was interesting, but also there is an interesting line of work, which is called product, totally different than development. And I've been doing it ever since. I'll jump on the other things that I've been in Emblaze, I've been in Flash Networks, I've been with IBM for 3 years because I wanted to see how a big corporate behaves. And I landed, eventually I was working with Clarizen as a CTO. And after I finished Clarizen, I was usually between works, between working at the company and another company. I just like to freelance as a coder. It allows my mind to rest a little bit. And I was freelancing for a few companies. Today, you know them as Monday. I was actually freelancing for Monday and GetTaxi. So two not too bad companies. And I was actually offered to work at both of them. And I chose GetTaxi. I joined as a CTO. During the time, they were a little bit stuck at same thing as Meet for Me. They were stuck at number of rides a month for a few months, and I came and I took over the product and technology and operations at the time. Launched the credit card, launched Russia, launched New York. I've only been in GetTaxi for 2 years, but I think at that time it was a very crucial time for GetTaxi and the taxi industry. Obviously, not only me, Uber. We were actually competing with Uber at the time. So it was before they raised tons of money. Yeah, and it was super exciting and super fun, and I got to see the world, and I got to see people, and I got to understand the power of entrepreneurship when it moves the needle for the world. It was super cool. Yeah, and then we got to BRINGG. I don't know if you want to go into BRINGG and how that started, but that was the last thing I did before BRINGG.
That was my next question. Let's start a little bit, before we go backwards, let's start with right now. What is BRINGG?
Yeah, BRINGG is very simple and very complicated at the same time, like any good solution. We always like to say in GetTaxi, the fact that you are seeing customer experience of a taxi coming in and it's so simple, that's the power of a good product, because it seems very simple, but it's very complicated behind the scenes. So BRINGG is an operating system that orchestrates fulfillment for the biggest enterprises in the world. This is what we do, but I think the more important thing is what pain we are solving. The pain we are solving is that customer expectations around the globe, everywhere, every country, every place, totally changed in the last few years. When people, were okay with a week delivery, that they don't know when something is coming to them. I'm talking 10 years back. From that angle, that we as people, we didn't know that something can be better. There was this company called Amazon, you might have heard of. You might have heard of them, and they came in and they said, about 12 years ago, they said, we can do next day delivery for free. We can do that. And people told them that they are crazy. They are a book company. They don't understand logistics. They will fail completely, and nobody believed it. I don't need to explain what happened since. But today, 12 years after that, we are talking about half an hour delivery. And this amazing change, this amazing customer experience, the ability to want something and just get it in 30 minutes, like magic. Like I said, simple in the front and very complicated in the back, is a customer experience revolution. And we understood in BRINGG that there are a few companies that can do it, Amazon, Uber, but the rest of the 99% of the biggest companies in the world, it will be much too complicated for them in terms of concept, in terms of changing how they behave, in terms of technology. It will just be too complicated. And we offered a very simple solution that is easily integratable, highly scalable, very, very secure, meant to work with the biggest enterprises in the world, basically to provide them with the technology to do an Amazon quality deliveries very, very quickly.
And right now, where are you at in the process?
Well, BRINGG is?
Yeah.
It's a never-ending process. It starts like every startup. It starts perfectly, and then you get some customers, so it's not as good, and then you get some investors, and it's all downhill from there. So yeah, we raised $80 million. We are roughly 160 people. We are active in 50 countries around the world. Millions of deliveries a day, working with the biggest customers in the world. You can look online on some of them. Some of them we cannot share, but you can imagine. We are in a growth type of mode, meaning, roughly speaking, you are starting something, you are exploring, then you have some type of product market fit where you understand that your product is solving something. Usually I like to describe it as a good startup is startup that is solving something. This something is big, and this something is something that people are willing to pay for. Those are the three qualities, solve a problem, it has to be big and people are willing to pay for it. So that's the product market fit. Once you do that, and basically you start selling and you start to understand, you have the market fit, you have to grow, and you go into, the 3-digit percentage growth from year to year. The product challenge is never ending. It's always the product challenge, but now you start having growth challenges. Like the main challenge is how do you grow the people? I always tell my team, you know, it's very easy to be fast and agile and smart and when you are 50 people. Now let's do it when we're 200 people. Let's see how we do that then. That's the challenge. And this is where we are now, growing like crazy. And it's painful, just like the beginning.
So what's next for BRINGG? Basically, you've proved that you can deliver, literally, right? What's next?
So you asked what's next? What's next? We are in a very interesting place. I think that not many startups get to see, especially not in Israel. So two things that are very, you know, unique at BRINGG, other than the product and the people. Two things that are very unique. First is that our market, you know, deliveries, fulfillment, pickup, especially now with COVID-19, which is crazy. We'll talk about it later probably, but the market is changing. The politics around it, gig economy, is it continuing? Is it discontinuing? There are legal laws in the US starting to be against it. They are losing money. Uber is buying Postmates. I don't know if you know the names, but those are big names. Justice is buying Grubhub. A lot of things are changing in that world. Autonomous cars, drones, you know. So first, the first challenge is always, you know, the market is changing. How do we not adapt to the market? How do we see where the market will change 2 years from now and make sure that when the market arrives, we are already there? Which leads me to the second thing, which is we are a leading company. We are the #1 brand right now doing everything that we are doing. Meaning, you know, we don't look at our competitors and see what they do and try to do the same or try to adapt or whatever. We have nobody to look at. People are looking at us. So we are kind of paving the ways to this market, and it's a big challenge because you have nowhere to look. You have to understand. You are in a place that, in terms of product and strategy, you just have to be very, very professional, both in terms of understanding patterns and also in terms of testing and doing MVPs and adapting and moving and understanding what's really happens and what's working and what's not. So it's very interesting. Those are the big challenges.
Let's talk a bit about COVID-19. COVID-19 has been like a double-edged sword for you guys. I mean, first of all, it's been a very, very good engine growth for you guys. Growth engine, sorry. But of course, I mean, many people and then trying to get some of them out of the company, unfortunately, and you know, all those bad things that we hear on the news every day. So tell us a little bit about how you balance the good things with the bad.
Yes, so first, you know, it is important for me personally. COVID-19 first, it's a very big challenge, not to companies, to people, right? So we have to remember that, you know, before BRINGG, there are people, our employees are out there, we are out there, we are working from home. This is not my office. You know, it's when it was starting, it was, you know, the first 2 or 3 weeks, it was new, it was different, people accepted it, but you know, it's been a while, right? It's been months, and the stress is bigger and bigger, personal stress, working from home, kids, and so on and so forth. So first we have to understand, you know, the context here, and I think that's #1 thing is if you are a responsible company and a responsible entrepreneur, think about your people, think about your customers, think about the consumer. They are first and foremost, they are people, and they're, you know, it's all over the place, and it's stressful. For us as a company, first we are in the right market. You know, obviously, you know, people can't open restaurants and retail and services. So the other alternative, the only other alternative, unless they are closing down, which a lot of them are, the only other alternative is to start deliveries or start click and collect, curbside, there are different words, which is our technology. So we see in most of the cases, in most of the segments with most of our customers, we are seeing a huge spike, and I'm talking hundreds of percentage, which brings its own challenges, mostly to the operations and to people, not the technology side. But when our customers have challenges, we have challenges, right? Unexpected challenges sometimes. Sometimes the results in terms of BRINGG are so good that customers don't have a way to pay because they thought they will pay $1 million a year, and suddenly they find themselves having to pay BRINGG $2 million a year because they do double the orders. So, you know, double-edged sword, like you said. On the other side, there are the 10%, 15% of the companies, our customers, that are running into serious issues. You know, we have customers that legally, the country got closed down. No deliveries, no pickup, nothing is allowed. So, you know, they don't deliver, they don't make money. So it's a challenge. So we had both. But I think now in the last month, obviously, and obviously sales, right? Let's talk about sales and growth. Everything I talked about right now is expansion and existing customers, but you also want to sell and you want to expand to new people. And we ran into the usual stuff, like how do you sell $1 million deal, a yearly ARR, right? Year after year, if you can't meet face to face with people, you cannot show them. You can just Zoom, right? But it's not personal. The entire relationship is different. How do you do that, and so on and so forth? So the first few months were rough, honestly. People were more afraid. Customers were afraid to make investments. Nobody knew what's happening. But since then, I think people are realizing that we are in it for the long run. There will be second wave, third wave, whatever. It will take time for a cure. Our customers understand that. We understand that. People understand that deliveries are here to stay. Digitization is here to stay. They need a solution, so they come to BRINGG. So there are challenges, but it's still, because it's different, because the system that we've built is not exactly fine-tuned for this situation, but it's working. We actually had a record quarter, so it's not bad.
Well, the question is whether it's a peak because of the COVID-19 situation, or do you think that the world has changed? Basically, just like we're probably going to use a lot more of Zoom, even after the COVID-19 is going to be behind us, let's hope sooner the better. Is it going to be the same at your industry? Is it going to be sustainable?
So I can tell you a few things, but I think because we are talking about entrepreneurs, I'll try to expose more the way I look at this. I think the objective of an entrepreneur, what I need to do is think about all possible consequences. Like I said at the beginning, we need to understand the patterns, where we are going, where things are going, and to prepare for it. I think there are multiple options. One of them, I can always tell, listen, and by the way, this is the most realistic outcome that I believe. Things will come down, like the numbers that we are seeing cannot continue, but so many people were exposed to e-commerce. There are things, there are numbers in groceries that, you know, in 5 years, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we saw growth that was expected to happen in 5 years in terms of penetration and so on and so forth. So if you use e-commerce and the results are good, if you guys use e-commerce, you know that once you use it and the results are good, you will continue to use it. Will all of the people continue to use it? I don't think so, but the growth is there, right? This is option number one, and then we don't need to do anything. We just need to go fast. That said, let's look at the other alternatives. There is an alternative that COVID is here to stay for more than 6 months, a year. I don't know. There's no cure. Nobody knows what's happening. You know, whatever. Even it becomes even worse. And then there is a potential that there is a recession. You know, people love deliveries, people love the experience, but they don't have money. You don't have money to pay extra $5 a day for food delivery 3 times a day. You just don't, and you go and buy it because you have to. And then, you know, we have ways in terms of the product and the offering to deal with that situation. If it comes, and we are developing solutions for businesses if they will face this consequence. So we are looking at the, you know, and there are some things in the middle that are optional. We are looking at the whole range of possibilities from best to worst, understanding what will happen to the players in the market, what will happen to the small players, what will happen to the restaurants, you know, the mom and pops, and what will happen to the big ones, to Pizza Hut, Domino's, you know, whatever. What's the difference? How long they will last? How long they will last? What are the issues that they will face? What the consumer will face in all of those scenarios? and we adapt. For example, I can tell you, we are looking at, just as an example, we are looking at home improvement, right? Home improvement, your ability to IKEA, whatever, your ability to build for yourself. First, people are home, so they have more time. So it's something that, they will use it more because they are home. Second, you don't want anybody to walk into your house, so you will do it yourself a lot more. And also, if you want to save money, you will also do it, right? So both in terms of growth or recession, it's probably something that will grow. It saves money and it uses your time and so on and so forth. So we are looking at it, and we are looking at the segment. And it's a very interesting segment, so we are going for it, right? So those type of things, I think as an entrepreneur, you have your work, you have your whatever job you are doing, marketing, sales, product, R&D, but you are also responsible for the direction of the company, the strategy, and then you have to think about all the alternatives of what happens.
And so if we're going to monitor this, then of course, right now, BRINGG is like you said, it's the biggest competitor in the market. But of course, the opportunity is there, and I assume that other competitors just entered this industry. So, what is the situation right now? I mean, of course, you're the biggest in the market, but what's happening in this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little known secret. If you have a startup and you're the only player in the market, you're probably doing something wrong. So competitors is not bad. It means that you're in the right direction. There is something that entrepreneurs call a moat. A moat is how you defend your company. It's like a moat of a fortress where the crocodiles swim. This is how you protect. You have to build something that it's very, very hard. Either takes time or money or whatever to close the gap, right? And we are fortunate enough that we've started 7 years ago. If you're targeting very, very big enterprises like we do, it's a no-go situation if you're not secured, if you cannot scale, if you don't have those even basic stuff. I'm not talking about features, but and you have to have a lot of features, and you have to have big data, and you have to have analytics, and you have to have some basic stuff. If you don't have them, it's a no-go from the beginning. And we have them, so we already, for startups, it's very hard to attack us. I'm looking at competition actually from the other side. So as the market grows and as people understand the potential, so we start to see competition actually from companies like IBM and Salesforce and SAP, the big players. And I've worked with IBM. I sold products for IBM, and to be honest, I can be honest here. I'm sure nobody will tell. A lot of times we sold the product not because it was a good product, but because it was IBM. People bought it because it was IBM, and when at the end of the day, when my customer has to invest $1 million a year in a 3-year deal, and they have IBM and BRINGG, and who knows who BRINGG is, job security for him, and so on and so forth. If you choose IBM, you can fail, right? If you choose Salesforce, you can fail because you chose the right thing, and it can happen. So it's a challenge from that direction for us. I'm not worried about the quality. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I've been working the big companies. It's very hard for them to adapt. It's very hard for them to build new things. And the approach that is needed in the field today is very different than the traditional players. So I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the fact that they are powerful. And we actually faced a few of those names in the past. And I can tell you that we actually had a case with a customer that we are a mission critical system. So, it's very important that our uptime is very high and that we don't crash and so on and so forth. And one of those big players actually had an outage of 3 days. They had an outage of 3 days that nobody could speak to them. Nobody could understand what's happening. And it was, it is what it is. We had an outage of an hour. And still, they were talking to us about, listen, you had an outage of an hour. We don't know if we can trust you. We might move to the other competitor that we can trust. And we were like, guys, they had an outage of 3 days. Yeah, but you're BRINGG, and they are who they are. And it is what it is. This is what you're facing. You cannot make mistakes as a startup. Maybe if we talk again in 5 years, we will be the big beast and we can say whatever we are. But today, you cannot even make those small mistakes. And it's super important. Reliability, the trust of a customer. Even if you, I don't know, can we curse in this webinar? Even if you F up, which happens, you need to know how to respond to that. How do you talk to your customers about your failures? What did you do to correct it? Trust is super important if you're selling multi-million-dollar deals as a small startup.
This was really fascinating, but and although I want to take the conversation to a different direction, if you don't mind, you've been a CTO for quite some time. I mean, even before, just like you said before, the time of BRINGG. What is the role of a CTO nowadays in startups?
In a small company, in my opinion, I'm sorry if I'm offending people in this conversation. CTO is the role or title you give a founder that you have nothing to do with them. Usually they don't want or they cannot manage the R&D. They cannot just manage one team, whatever you're giving it to CTO. Me personally, like I said, in GetTaxi and in BRINGG now, I manage the R&D, product and success operations team. In both those companies, I had VPs, VP of engineering, VP R&D, VP success working with me on those things. So I had executives to do those things. I think as you grow up as an entrepreneur, at least, I don't know, I don't want to say generic things. For me, the title is meaningless. I don't mind being called anything. I also think that tactically, if you guys have a company that is small, you should remove the founder from your title. I think it hints to the fact that you are a small company. I removed the founder title, from signature and so on and so forth years ago. Actually, now it might be returning because we are big enough and it shows something. But for years I didn't. Titles are meaningless. It's all about how do you get the right results. So I think in a small company, CTO is I don't know what the title is, and I actually don't. In bigger companies, we work very closely with Coca-Cola, who was our customers and investor. And I got to know the CIO and the CTO very, personally. In those type of companies, there is an actual role to the CTO. They have people managing the day-to-day, and they are looking at the strategy, technology-wise, where things are going in 5 to 10 years. They have a serious position to fill. In startups, I don't know.
So if I'm trying to analyze what you just said, if I'm right now creating a new startup and I'm looking for a CTO, I don't even know what to look for.
No, that's a different thing. That's not the title thing. Yeah, you asked about the title and now you're talking about the person. Those are totally different things. So first, maybe you look for somebody who doesn't care about the title. But the title matters, externally. You raise money, the VC would want to know who is the CTO. But that's the only meaning, like externally. If you ask me, what do you look for in a partner? Is just that you're not looking for a CTO, you're looking for a partner, and you have to realize that from all directions. I strongly believe that the founding team has to be equal in the startup. It doesn't really matter who brings more value at the beginning. It's obvious, I have a technical background and I have product background. It's pretty obvious that when I join forces with a business person, CEO, CFO, whatever, my contribution to the company in the first few months is going to be much higher because he has nothing to do and I have to code the stuff. I have to create the initial product. But it doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter. You have to have a partner that you trust. You will have very, very bad times. I promise you. If you're successful, if you're not successful, doesn't matter. But if you're successful, you're gonna have some very difficult times. You're gonna be alone in front of developers or customers or people that you like or you don't like, that not necessarily want what's best for you, and maybe they want what's best for you, but they don't agree with you, and you have to protect your company and your vision and your idea and so on and so forth. You will run out of money, you will have money, you will run out of customers, you will have to recruit people, you will lose people. I can continue forever. It's going to be very, very difficult and challenging. You need to have somebody with you. I think I would not start my own startup on my own, even though, technically today I can. I do not want to do it alone. And it's just like people say, just like marriage or partnership. You have to find the right partner first, that they think like you. They don't have to agree with you. They don't have to think the same thought, but they have the same they have the same concepts. They look at the world in the same way. You have to align on what are the targets for a startup. Are you looking for quick money, quick exit? Do you want to build something big? Why are you doing it? The reason has to be similar. And then there are opinions, whatever. But you have to have a partner, and this is what I would look for first and foremost. Second of all, they have to be professional, and for that, either if you can interview somebody professionally as a CTO, do it, and if not, find friends that are willing to interview that on a professional level per se.
So, if I'm going back to BRINGG for a second, then can you share some of the struggles you had during the 7 years? Something really can pique our interest if you don't mind.
Wow, infinite numbers. It's not. I have to find what to talk about from all of those struggles. But let's talk about Coca-Cola for a second. So the story about Coca-Cola, it started when we were, I don't remember, like 5 to 10 people. Very, very, very small startup. And it was the beginning of the BRIDGE program, which is a very recommended program in Israel, basically bridging between companies. I'll dive in more later if you want, but they are bridging between startups and companies. No money is exchanging hands, no ownership is exchanging hands. It's purely an attempt to close a deal that is a win-win situation for the startup and the company. Long story short, we were asked to present for Coca-Cola, and we said, why would Coca-Cola want to meet us, And Coca-Cola has the biggest fleet in the world. Coca-Cola actually has a fleet that is bigger than FedEx, DHL, and UPS combined. They have a huge fleet. They've been existing. They've been doing logistics for years. They are a huge company. Why would they speak to a 10-people startup from Tel Aviv? We talked to them, and then the CIO of Coca-Cola, the CIO, the person, there's only one of those in Coca-Cola, said, I thought about BRINGG before you did. I've been trying to start this thing. I've been trying to have this technology for Coca-Cola for a year. I spoke to Uber. I spoke to this and that. Unsuccessfully, you are exactly what I want. Why am I saying that is a struggle? Because we had a pilot with them, a super successful pilot. They wanted to start being a customer. They wanted to join and invest in us. And then, unfortunately, that CIO got very, 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 very sick, and actually died like 5 weeks afterwards, which is obviously sad on the personal level. But on the business level, he was our champion. What's happening now? Everything was built around this guy's dream. And if not Coca-Cola, if corporate America, once somebody like that is moving, there starts to be inheritance wars, and somebody will win, somebody will come the new person, and they will throw everybody away that are not from their camp. They will just leave. This is what happens in those companies, and you know, it was a very stressful time for us. Other than the fact that personally it was a big loss. It was very surprising, obviously, you know, in 5 weeks. So yeah, that was a challenge. We had to understand what we are doing, what we are saying to our investors. You know, Coca-Cola was basically a done deal. What do you tell your investors? You had growth plans according to that. You know, you had business, you had customers. We were deployed in Vietnam and in other countries at that time. What's going to happen? We hired people for that. Eventually, it turned out well, but it was a very stressful time.
So before we reach our last question, I want to ask for a few tips. Okay. The first tip is if you can give our guys in the audience how to approach for the first time a huge corporate, just like the ones you're facing, because it's different. It's completely different than what you're doing as an entrepreneur. And the second one is the first time you meet with a VC. So a few tips about those two situations.
Yeah. The first time you meet, I'll start with the second one, it's easier. The first time you meet a VC is meaningless. If you think it means something, it doesn't. If your meaningful meeting with the VC is the first meeting, you already failed. You know, you have to meet investors, not only VCs, all of them. First, what drives them? What drives most investors? Two things. They want to make money, and they want not to lose money. So they have an agenda to grow and a fear to lose. And you have to play between those two. It's very hard to overcome the fear if you meet them for one time, unless you are super successful already, and then you don't have a problem, they will come to meet you. When you meet them, you have to meet them all the time. You have to tell them the story when you are not raising funds. You have to talk about yourself, and they will love you and not love you, but you're not raising funds, so the discussion doesn't even go there, so it doesn't really matter. That said, along the time, they get to know you. They get to hear your plans, and ideally, with time, they also see that what you're planning for is actually happening. So there's trust again. There is trust in you. There's trust in your dream. There's trust in your execution. Then you start kind of surfacing the idea of funding. And if they're interested, they will let you know. The one tip I can tell you, and it's the most important, maybe one of the most important tips for funding, VCs have two answers to you when you leave the meeting. One of them is, yes, we want to invest. Let's meet to talk about it. The other one is no. There's no other choice. You are interesting. You are amazing. Let's talk in 6 months. You are the best we've ever seen. Blah, 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 blah. A lot of nice answers. If they don't want to continue immediately, it's probably a no. You have to realize that. They want to keep an open relationship with you. You might grow. They might think, you know, it might be interesting in a year. But if they want to invest, they will go for it because they don't want to miss the opportunity. If they don't do it, you are not ready. And then you have to understand why, but that's a different story. That's the VC. What was the first question?
A big corporate, like you talked about Coca-Cola, but you guys have like numerous of these companies. And so the first tip to work as an entrepreneur, as a small company, as an agile company, to work with such big dinosaurs.
Yeah. So first, like I said, Coca-Cola was luck. You have to have some luck as an entrepreneur. And the BRINGG program was amazing in helping us do it. So first, not only with Coca-Cola we were lucky, but also when we went to other big corporates, we had Coca-Cola as a customer. So that already, I don't want to say open doors, but they are not shutting down. because you have Coca-Cola. You're not nobody. Second of all, the solution, the problem that we are solving for was a very strong problem. Nobody, like I said, we are leading in the market. Nobody had solutions. So it's not that every door that we knocked, we close a deal, right? I'm not telling you that, but almost every door that we knocked opened for a discussion. What is it exactly you are doing? How do you solve for us? How much does it cost, and so on and so forth? Because when you are solving something real and painful that people want to pay for, they will listen to what you're saying, because they need to solve it. It's a pain point for them. Obviously, in that world, you know, you have to find the early adopters first, right? You have to find the people that are brave enough. You will hear a lot of no's and maybes, just like this is maybe, and let's talk about the blah, 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 which is basically no. But some of them will want to continue and listen. And with these guys, you have to open the relationship. You have to open the trust. You know, we did some of the VCs that invested in us did a background check and to check how we closed the first few deals. And a lot of it was around, listen, you guys, you came, you were prepared, you were professional. A lot of your kind of startup competitors at the time were kids. They didn't know exactly our pain point. They didn't understand us. In this example, you know, obviously, I have some experience, right? I'm not a first-time entrepreneur. I've seen places. I've been with IBM. I know how corporate works. It gives some depth to the answers. You have to understand your customer. Yeah.
Okay, so for the last question, I see that we have one from the audience, from Mr. Daniel Villa. So he wants to know, in your CTO perspective, how to balance the investment on internal process automation versus new product features, especially in the early stage.
How to balance the investment on
internal process automation versus new product features.
Okay. For me, so I'm a product guy, okay? For me, everything is product, right? And what is product? It means that you have to understand the problem, the upside of solving the problem, and then you have to understand the priorities. You know, everything comes at some expense. You know, the question was around funding, but it's the same around time. If you don't have funding and it's only your garage, you have limited time, and there's only so many things you can work on. So once you understand that and you look at everything from the product perspective, everything is product. So my internal processes, automation of internal processes are also a product. What's the gain for me? How much efficiency I can get from it? What's the upside to my customer experience? You know, let's talk about, for example, I have a new feature, or I want to make my site faster, or I want to do some automation on my customer support, so I can answer product, you know, complaints faster. And I only have time for one. Each one of those things has a business value that can be measurable, has an impact. And that's a decision that it's very, once you understand that everything is product, you can compare them. You are streamlining in a way, sorry that I'm getting technical, but you are streamlining the data points. You can compare apples to apples. Before, working on internal tools for customer support was bananas, and working on features for consumers was apples. But now everything is for the customer. Why are you doing it if it's not for the customers? If you cannot understand why automation for your customer care is a product for your customer, either it's not, you know, you don't understand your customer, or they don't need it. But there has to be a value there for the customer, which can be compared to a new feature. So in a way, it's easy. It's obviously what I'm saying is not easy to do, but once you understand that, I think it's easy. By the way, it's the same thing I'm working on when I'm talking about to R&D, you know, developers around refactoring and changing code. You know, just for you guys who don't understand the technical term, refactoring is basically changing the code underneath without changing anything external. It's the code is old, the technology is old, whatever. I'm not changing anything externally, but in terms of support and speed and so on and so forth, it's important technically to fix some code. But if you cannot quantify this, why is it good for the customer? For example, this is a piece of code that every time we need to change it or there is a bug, it takes us a week to solve because it's very complicated. Let's make it simpler. It will take us 2 weeks, but afterwards, fixes will take a day. And if customers run into issues, it will only take us a few hours to answer them. That's you know, value. Maybe we don't need an extra person to deal with this code. We don't have to hire anybody. We can hire somebody in terms of budget. We can hire somebody to do something else if we just, you know, remove this code. You know, there are many answers, but you always have to look at it at what is the customer gain. There's always ways to translate it to customer gain.
Okay, so first of all, we would like to thank you very much, Lior, for joining us. It was very illuminating and very enlightening. Okay, and I think
thank you.
I think that people found a lot of value in your story and your answers and your experience. So thank you very much. And guys, if you want to keep coming to our events, all you need to do is go to our website and then see our next events. We'll see you in the next month where we host a big competition for startups in the field of gaming. So take care and thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.